I think you're good for a coach if you're actually going to do the work. I think something hindsight 2020 for me is that, oh, I'm going to purchase this and it's going to like change my life. And it's like, well, you change your life. Nothing you buy is going to change your life. It's what you do
Yeah,
with what you buy, right?
yeah.
If you don't do anything with what you buy, nothing is going to change. Like nothing is.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Growth Blog podcast. And today I have a very energetic friend and ally I met through LinkedIn. And she will be sharing some wonderful things she has been up to, her transition story as well, and the beautiful things that she has been doing for people, helping them and helping her community. Without wasting your time, I'll just go straight to it. Over to you, Desiree. Can you just
Ah,
tell us about yourself a bit? And yeah.
absolutely. Thank you, Wilson, so much. It's an honor to be invited. I'm Desiree Cocroft, for all you listeners out there. I'm originally from Wisconsin in the States, but I currently live in Maryland. That's where I am right now. I have two businesses. One is a nonprofit dance company for women and girls in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I also have a leadership coaching and consulting organization where I help leaders and entrepreneurs increase their influence, their income, and their joy using self identity and self awareness work. And so I do a lot of work with leaders and entrepreneurs, and I do work with some businesses, helping them with a lot of skill sets around my bold framework. And so my bold framework is really about being, like stepping into your being, also owning your time, your energy, your decision making, and your words. I talk about leading. How can you lead yourself with your personal habits and be a great advocate to lead others? And then doing, like, how can you be your best at executing and executing with a circle of accountability? And so I use that framework to help people be more influential in their personal life or in their workplace to increase their income. So if they're an entrepreneur, some of those different skill sets can help them better increase their income. And if they're a business, helping them get more minimalist so that they can increase their income. And then their joy, there's something about the things that I teach that help people be more aligned with things that make them more excited about working and living. And so I like to do that work. So that's just a little bit about me.
And there's more to you, and we'll come to that. Let's talk first about life and leadership coaching. Did you see yourself doing this probably growing up? Was it something you saw yourself, okay, someday I'm going to be a life and leadership coach? Did that cross your mind?
Right, right. Probably I didn't use those words, but for sure, my first job when I was 17, I was in high school, and one of my advisors saw a job posting for a teen mentor and said that they thought I would be a really great fit for that job. And so when I looked at it, I'm like, you're spot on. This is something I would really love to do. So I applied and got the job. And my job was to teach elementary and middle school students, so between the ages of like 10 and like 13, 14, I had to teach them a curriculum that was based on decision making and self esteem, self image, how to have healthy relationships. And so, as a teenager, still learning those things, I was, caused to have to be a teacher of those things to students. And I heard once from someone that if you can teach a kid something, if you know how to
Yeah,
teach a kid something, you can teach anybody something because you
to
had to break it
anybody.
down. Right. You had to break it down into something that's so, like layman, right? And so it was great to do that so early in life. And so in that program, we had summer programming. We did programming during the school year. And I used to have to do small and large group team building activities too to get the group to be comfortable and safe having these conversations. And so learning how to build safe spaces and all of that, I learned that so early, right? And so I knew then that I desired to not only be an entrepreneur, which is interesting because it's not like that taught me entrepreneurship. I knew that I wanted to own my own business, doing work with young people initially. And then I also knew that I enjoyed seeing people have that light go off and have a discovery moment that helped them grow and see themselves as strong and powerful and that they
Yep.
accomplished more in their life. And so, even though I didn't have the terminology of life and leadership coach, but I
Yep.
think back then people weren't using that name,
Yep.
that word so much. But the words that came across were like counselor, advisor, you know what I mean? Things like that. And so a
Yeah.
lot of the work that I ended up doing post college were like counseling, advising, taking kids on like college and career trips, things like that. So I did a lot of that work with young people and college students when I graduated. Even though I went to school for business, that's what I did initially because that's kind of like where my heart was.
Oh, interesting. You mentioned safe space while explaining, right? How important is having a safe space for people to actually share what they have in their mind when it comes to life and leadership? How important is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that whether it's a one-on-one safe space or whether it's a
Yeah.
safe space that is multiple people, if an individual is desiring to see some kind of change, there's going to be some things that they have to accept and be okay with saying out loud.
Yeah.
And so if there's not a space where they feel like they can authentically say those things, then it doesn't give them the opportunity to grow the way they could. They really have a missed opportunity of growth when they feel like they have to hold back because they're not sure if they're going to be judged or shamed or feel guilty for what they're going to say, or if they feel like whatever feedback you end up giving them is going to make them feel worse. So
Yeah.
really being able to create that like safe playing field of like, hey, this is not a place of judgment. This is a safe space. Everything that stays in this that's said in this room is going to stay in this room. You don't
Mhm.
have to share anything you don't feel comfortable sharing, but just know that whatever you share, it's for the sake of growth, right? And so I'm being able to like set those boundaries and be an example of holding that space, I think is really pinnacle if you want to see people grow for sure. And that's
Mm.
in any area.
Okay. And I think it's very important because a lot of people sometimes want to go the other way, but they're scared of being judged, right?
Mhm.
Maybe everyone expects you to be this, and you want to go the other way, but it's like, who do I talk to? Um,
Mhm.
and as a life coach, what would you say is the best way to create that space? Because it can be from a business perspective, even parents at home, friends. What can they do to create a safe space for people to come to them
Yeah, that's really good.
to see? Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is good. I think the number one thing is to get your own self together.
I know,
Sometimes
right?
like you can only fake it for so long, right? Because people are not going to feel safe when your true colors come out. So
Yeah.
I think it's managing of oneself is
Yeah.
important to do on your own consistently. It's not like an event. Like once a week, I want to manage myself, right? But that time to manage yourself, and a lot of it is like connecting with your body, connecting with your emotions, knowing how you're feeling, knowing when you're at your best and when you're at your worst, and being able to articulate that to people. For instance, if I'm leading a group or leading a company, or even even in our exchange. So in full transparency, I had a death in the family. All right. And we were scheduled to do this earlier, but I had to be transparent, like, hey, I'm not even in a good space to have this conversation. We reschedule this, right? But we don't always do that, right? Sometimes we don't do that and we push, 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 push. We push ourselves and then we push ourselves to our physical and mental limit. And then we spaz out on people and people don't understand why. And that's something that we have to unlearn because I think in our culture, specifically, I think in American culture, and maybe it's the same thing in the UK, that, you're taught to just to be a driver, right? To just go, 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 like make things happen. And sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to rest and be real about ourselves because it makes us feel less of a leader, less of a go-getter, less of that to like rest. And so we almost have to unlearn those things. And so I think, if you want to create a safe space for your clientele, for your family, for those that you teach in whatever arena that you're in, you have to do your own inside work first. And that doesn't make you perfect because no one is, but you can definitely get increasingly better at navigating yourself so that you can be at your best to even hold that space. So that's like first and foremost, like get yourself together. And but then after that, you get to build rapport collectively with other people. Asking them what do they need to feel like this is a safe space. Because I'm like, if you don't get that feedback, you're making up reasons why this is a safe space,
Mm,
and that might not be what they really need. So, collectively creating a safe space by asking the questions of what a person needs, what's going to help them be their best, what's going to help them share, what do they want to get out of this space. And if you have a group, doing some building rapport activities can definitely help. But as we all know, all because you do like a team building activity once a year doesn't
yeah.
make you know the people. But just doing that with intentionality consistently, if you're going to have a group that's working really closely for a long period of time. But I've been able to really build rapport quickly with even groups that I only see once. And that's because I'm really big at being genuine and authentic right away,
Mhm.
setting those boundaries right away, and being able to create a space by being an example of that person that can be authentic in those spaces. So it makes people inspired to do it too.
Yeah.
And then being able to be that facilitator that can control that environment when people start acting funky, like out of pocket, right? I can come back and like, okay, remember what we said. That's not what we're here for. I hear what you're saying. This is not a great space for that, but I respect you. Like just being able to navigate those things can really help. But I think that takes practice. And I feel like I've had a lot of time to
Okay.
practice that. But you can definitely do it even if you have a short time with people. But I love when you have a consistent group because then that way it helps you really learn the nuances of creating a safe space.
Wow. Very detailed and interesting. Once again, condolences on the loss.
Thank
Please
you.
accept. And I hope you're doing good now.
I
I know
am.
it's never easy. Okay. Um, Now let's talk dance. I think that was another
Yes.
thing that caught my interest when I looked you up dancing. And you had this TED talk where you said maybe leaders should do more dancing.
Yes.
So, how does dancing, one way or the other, improve leadership?
Yes, I love that. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think, and it's interesting. So my dance story is really interesting. I danced as a kid, and I took dance class. My high school had some classes, like one class. I wasn't like a dance major in high school. I know there's some art schools out there. I didn't go to an arts high school. I went to like a tech high school, but I took a dance class there, and then I had family members that were a part of a West African dance company in Milwaukee, and so I did a lot of African dancing in elementary school. But and then I did street dancing, like hip hop, right? So like that was the training I got, right? But it wasn't every
Yeah.
day. It wasn't like I was in classes every week. Like I wasn't that person that got trained all the time. So I actually didn't get professional, consistent dance training until after I graduated from college.
Mm,
And so I was like in my late 20s by the time I had been working. I quit my first, well, not my first job, but out of college, the longest job I was at.
mm,
I quit to go back to school full time after me and my friend started my dance company in 2004. And so I went to school and got my second BA in dance at that point, and that's when I got the most concentrated dance experience, mostly in modern and African style dancing. And so when it came to leadership, we've been a company for 20 years now. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary this month. Yeah,
congratulations.
and we like literally this Saturday we had our 20th show, our 20th anniversary show. So it was a lot of fun. And so being a leader of a dance company has taught me so much about how our body and how we interact in community can really help us in other areas. And that's why I did the TED talk on, dancing your way
Yeah.
to better leadership. And so I feel like if more leaders took a dance class, you would be more in tune with your body.
Mm,
And I think when we are in tune with our body, specifically when we are doing dance and doing dance in a way where we have to not just follow the leader and move along with someone, but actually have to remember choreography.
yeah.
And if we're not a dancer, we can have a lot more empathy for people that don't know another skill set that we know, right?
Mm,
And so I think it makes you a more empathetic leader. when you take a dance class, because if you are not a dancer, you can have way more empathy to people that are not having the same expertise as you have. Because sometimes as leaders, we expect people to know everything that we
Yep.
know, right? And we are not clear communicators because sometimes we make assumptions that people know what we need and all of that. But in a dance class, you got to say something. Like you have to say something. And what's great is that in a dance class, it's common for people to give feedback to the teacher, whereas as leaders, sometimes it's common that people don't have anything to say. It's like, hey,
Yep.
does anybody have anything to say? And people say, no, nobody says
Yep.
anything. But in a dance class, if you don't say anything, you're going to be really short when it comes to delivering this on a stage, because you won't know what to do, right? And you're going to keep getting that same feedback that you're doing it wrong, but you won't know what it is because you didn't openly ask for feedback. So I think that is one part. It gives you way more empathy as a leader,
Okay.
because especially if you're not a dancer, because you're going to feel at odds with your body and the music. And it also makes you more communal, because the thing I love about dance is that you don't have to be the teacher to give somebody corrections.
Okay.
And people in the class will give you corrections. They will tell you if they know you're messing up. They'll tap. Some people will tap you. They'll be like, "Hey, like you doing that on the wrong foot, or that's the wrong beat, or you're off." And it's not because they're trying to make you look bad. You have to do things
Mm.
in sync. If
Yep.
somebody else messes up, that's going to mess you up. And if we're all supposed to look the same and they're not doing it, you're doing it not just for them, you're doing it for you because y'all all are on the stage together. And so I think it does kind of bring that kind of one band, one sound situation. And it gives people, regardless of titles,
Yep.
permission to have a voice. And I think that that's really important. So I think that those are at least two of the things that I think
Yep.
can really help empathy, and then
Yep.
allowing people to have a voice regardless of their titles. And it's almost a space where it's permission to do that.
Oh, wonderful. Empathy and then the permission to share your opinions when it comes to dancing, which we're translating to leadership. When I watched the TED Talk, no, it was beautiful. And you
Yeah.
also mentioned the power of repetition, the power of repetition. Now, let's bring it to career transitions, right? Like I said, quite a number of people might be in the position where they want to move from something to the other, but they're scared. Will I fail at
Mhm.
this? Will it go as planned? Is this the
Right.
right choice? Um, how does that power of repetition, because I believe repetition there is trying and trying all over again, regardless.
Yeah.
How powerful is that for someone who really wants to do something different?
Yeah, I love that. The power of repetition is important because I think about consistency, right?
Yep.
And so all because and I think about jumping rope or double dutch or whatever, like you jump in the rope and you might like mess up the rhythm, but if you don't keep jumping, you won't get the information that you need to get better. And so
Yep.
that's why I think it's something about the power of repetition, because the power of repetition helps you get the information that you need to get better. And so in an
Mhm.
entrepreneurial journey or a transition in your career, even if it's to a different career position, the more that you can like if you got rejected or something didn't
Yep.
work, the more that you get the feedback that you need, so that you can apply it again. That's the repetition, right? It's not repeating the same mistake. It's like repeating the
Yep.
action with a different either energy or with different information so that you can actually get the result that you desire. And that is the power of it, because the thing that you do the next time is always going to be better, especially when you apply new energy and new information. If you
Yep.
apply new energy and new information, it's going to get better. There's no way it can't get better, right?
Mhm.
But if you're just doing it without using it to inform you, then that's when you're gonna like start hitting a wall and feeling like, why is it not working? This keeps failing me. But it's like you're doing it with the same energy, and you're doing it
Yep.
with a lack of taking new information. And so I'm like, if you take new energy and new information into your repeated effort, you're going to get a different outcome. And so it's power in that, because it trains your mind to see that, oh, when I do something different with this same deliverable, that I'm going to get a new result. And it makes it easier and easier. And dance definitely taught me that, because you do any dance technique, whether it's flat back or tendu, but most people can relate to flat back. Your back is flat, right? But the more that you do it, you understand what your muscles are doing. You know what your muscles don't look like. You have a mirror to show you what it looks like, or you have someone literally telling you, like, no, that's not there. So the more you feel it in your body, the more you know what it feels like because you're taking new information and you're feeling new energy. Something that I like to do with people sometimes if I have them live is to well, especially in a dance class, but it's something that I'm bringing into some of my talks and my coaching because it's fun, in my opinion at least. But having people do body movements, and I want them to take a word and use their body to feel that word out or to show me what that word looks like, and your body is always going to tell on you. So for instance, if you're talking about like, oh, what does money feel like to you? And I want you to show me in your body, right? And if you're making yourself small, I know what you feel about money, right?
Yeah.
If you make yourself big, it's like, oh, okay, you real open. You know what I mean? Like, so your body is always going to tell on you. And so I think that there is something about the more that you can notice like what is happening when you're doing those repeated acts, it's going to give you feedback and you won't fail.
Mm. Oh, very powerful. And I'll try and do a morning pose, just like you said. Let me see what it does to my body, maybe.
Do a money pose, Wilson. Right. Like, okay, maybe you holding the money. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, like I have it or something.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny.
Okay. And I think also going through your work, there's this emphasis on you evolving, your self-esteem, self-awareness. And the question is, if someone is stuck in a place where they don't even know what they are good at, they don't know what to do, how would you advise them? What would you tell them to do for a start?
No, I love that. And I get that question a lot. And so a lot of my free content helps with that because I like when I work with people that they have an idea because it's so
Yeah.
much work when you're at a place of not knowing. And so I always find that when people don't know, they do know. So my first question to people when they say they don't know, I say, well, if you did know, what would it be? You know, like that's my question. Like,
Mm.
well, if you did know, what would be your answer? And so if that still has them stuck, then I go into journaling and writing because writing and journaling is just really great processing for us to get out of our heads. Some people are verbal processors, and so sometimes that verbal processing can come out literally in their mouth or in journaling. But I find that journaling is consistent even when people are not a verbal processor. If they're like an internal processor, writing can be very helpful to them. And so I have them do a lot of visualizations of their future self. So future self visualizations are good because people detach themselves from their future self, even though they are their future self. Like we're the same person today, yesterday, and tomorrow, right? So, but it's funny in our minds, we disconnect ourselves from our future self. So I tell people to go into their future self, or I say go into your wiser, older self. Because sometimes when we look at ourselves as our wise, older self, we can detach ourselves too. And so start writing, what does that person look like? What are they doing? How do they sound? How are they spending their time every day? Who is around them? You know, just asking them all the questions because everyone has at some point visualized their wiser, older self or just their future self. You know what I mean? Even if we never articulated it, we have visualized it. And so
Yeah.
I use that a lot to help people think through and then come back to now. So it's like, okay, if you can come back to now after doing that, what does that mean for you to implement now? Right? Because you don't just all of a sudden become that person. You become that person in intervals. So what would that person be doing today if that's what you saw? Right. And so that usually helps people start articulating it. And then the second thing is I use a lot of assessments. So I'm a positive intelligence coach as well. So I love the positive intelligence assessment on saboteurs. That's a free assessment. Anybody can go to positive intelligence, Google it, saboteur assessment. And that helps people see their self-sabotaging tendencies. And when you look at your self-sabotaging tendencies, that can give you a sense of what your strengths are, because typically the self-sabotaging tendencies we have are just like our strengths being amplified and end up being our weaknesses. So for instance, one of my tendencies, if I'm like in a very stressed place, I will be a hyperachiever. And that just means like trying to run for all of the trophies. I'm trying to do all the things, right? And so it's actually it's a great attribute to want to achieve, but when you're doing it for looking for validation, then it can be something that can, really not be, beneficial to you. And so it's like our greatest gift can sometimes be our greatest weakness, so just finding our neutral is important. And so I think when I do those assessments with people, it helps them identify what's been getting in their way of them accepting what they have articulated from their wiser older self. And then the other assessment that I really enjoy is Gallup's Strength Finders. So if you've heard of Strength Finders, that's a really good one. It gives you your top 5 strengths. And that's like $20 if you buy the book. You can do the assessment. And so I have people do that, and that's really helpful because it helps them have words that they can use to articulate their strengths when they're kind of like at a loss for words.
Okay. Okay, good. Finally, let's talk about coaching. How
Yeah.
important is coaching? Because some people will say, I can figure this out myself, right? And some people have never probably had a coach or a mentor in their journey. And now they want to do something different. They want to move to new heights. How important is coaching to that journey? And um, how can they position themselves to be coached? Because I feel some people feel they can do it. I don't know if it's based on their ego or something, but they just feel I can do it myself. And now, how do they position themselves to allow a coach help them to even be better?
That's so good. What's interesting is that I think the more aware you get of yourself, when you're saying I can do it myself, as A, you really can do it yourself, or B, I don't want anybody making me do this. So I'm saying that because I don't want anybody pushing me right now. So I'm gonna do it myself at my pace, right? But you don't end up doing anything. And so when people say, anything contrary to coach, I'm like, hey, that's fine. That's your decision. My question to you would be, like how much further along would you be had you had one, right? And so sometimes, and I do that for myself too. Like, if I purchased this or if I started investing in myself with this coach, would I be further along, right? And if the answer is yes, great. If I feel like, hey, am I able to do this myself and still get to the goal the way I want to, then, then I know I don't need one, right? And so I think that it's really important for people to be clear about what they need. And so I'm sure you would agree with this. I've talked to people that are interested in coaching, but they don't know what they need. I can't figure that out for you. It's like that's beyond me, right? Like I can ask you questions to help you discover it, but I'm not going to tell you what you need because you have to know. I can tell you what you need when you tell me what you want, right? But if you can't tell me what you want, I can't help you because now I'm going to be the person responsible for you investing in yourself and telling you what you need. And you're like, I didn't even want this in the first place. And it's like, well, that's why it's really important for people to know what they want. So for A, know what you actually need help with. Otherwise, you're going to waste your money and your time. And if you don't know what you need help with, I would delay spending money on it. Honestly, I would do all the self things that you can to get really clear about what you need before you invest in something that is large for you. If it's a low ticket investment, cool. But if it's something that's high ticket, just speaking from my own experience, I would not purchase something until I was really clear about what my level of need was. I think you're good for a coach if you're actually going to do the work. I think something hindsight 2020 for me is that, I'm going to purchase this and it's going to like change my life. And it's like, well, you change your life. Nothing you buy is going to change your life. It's what you do with what you buy, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do anything with what you buy, nothing is going to change. Like nothing is going to change. Nobody has a magic wand to change your life. And so I had to have that come to Jesus moment for myself. Is that, well, if I don't do the work, nothing is going to change. And so I think that people just have to have that reality check about that. And then the third thing is like, are you going to take the time to do the work? So it's knowing that work needs to be done is the number 2, but it's like, are you going to take the time and make the time to do it? If you don't take the time and make the time to do it, then it's going to be a waste of your dollars and your resources. And so I'm like, know what you want, know that it's not going to get solved because of, your purchase all of a sudden. And it's going to take your work and your effort to get that done. But knowing what you desire, the end goal is, I think, the number 1 thing.
Okay. No, thank you. I think that's clear. Um, Finally, if someone is scared of taking that quantum leap, what would you say to that person? Let's say maybe a word or two. What would you tell that person?
Yes, I would say fear is a natural feeling and do it anyway.
Yeah.
I was told once that excitement and fear are the almost have the same feeling in our bodies,
Mm,
and so it's just like let the fear turn into excitement. So just do it anyway.
wow.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Are there any projects you want to share with us that you're currently working on, or something you want people to know about you and what you do? Finally, just before we call it today. Yeah.
Oh, this went so fast.
Yeah, I know,
uh,
right?
Yeah, right now I'm actually doing a retreat that I'm accepting, clients for. I'm doing a retreat called the Elevate Retreat. This retreat is actually geared toward women and leaders in entrepreneurship. It's like a reset retreat that's in July. It's going to be in Mexico from July 11th through the 15th, and it's a really small, intimate group. I have like 8 rooms left for people that want to be a part of it. It'll be a group of like 15 to 20 people. So if you're interested in that, you can, find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at hello@desireecocroft.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn and DM me. I'm in the LinkedIn streets all the time. But that's the biggest thing that's coming up for me, because in the next two
Okay.
months, I have to make sure that I have my rooms filled. So that's what I'm doing right now. And outside of that, I do one-on-one coaching, so you can definitely DM me if you're interested in that. And I love working with people that are either in transition or are looking to get more influence in their spaces at work.
Hey, thank you so much. And yeah, the time went so fast, but it was a pleasure having you on this episode. Thank you
Same.
for just sharing what you know with us, and yeah, all the best going forward. I am still on the streets of LinkedIn, watching out for the great things you're doing. Your book as well. Yeah,
Yes.
Get Your Life Today. Please go look it up and get a copy of it. And yeah, thank you once again. And for our listeners, I'll say bye for now and catch you soon on another episode. Bye.
Thank you.